Hello and welcome to Higher Ed Live. I'm your host, Seth Odell, coming to you live as always from the Mill Yard, Southern New Hampshire University here in Manchester, New Hampshire. We are on the fourth floor of the Mills here in downtown, and as you can tell, I'm not alone. I'll allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hello everybody, Justin Baer, founder of WelcomeToCollege.com and home of Marv, the mobile automated research vehicle. And we're pumped to be in New Hampshire, and timing worked out perfectly to join on the show tonight, so we're excited to be here.
Yeah, as soon as I found out Justin was in town, I figured that he has to come down and be a part of this. And being that, Marv is one of the wilder aspects of higher ed, I figured we should at least make the show with Justin here a little bit wild too. So that's why this show is all open, all about you. That's right, we're doing an open-ended show. In just a few minutes, we're going to be sending a link out to a Google Hangout where you guys can actually come and join the show, call in, fire up your webcams, tell us what's going on. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be talking all about what's in the news, what's on our minds, and what you guys want to talk about too. So you are totally in the driver's seat. Absolutely, as always, use the hashtag HigherEdLive. We are listening. In fact, again, fire up those webcams. 5 minutes from now, we're going to fire out a link. You can jump right in, join the conversation, and you can tell me that I'm totally full of it on my own show. You have that opportunity in just a few minutes. But first, as always, I want to thank the sponsors that help make Higher Ed Live possible. Higher Ed Live is sponsored by Integral, the creation of the Schools app on Facebook, a private Facebook community to boost enrollment and retention. Integral launched a killer new cross-platform product called Announcement recently. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. The link's going to go out in a little bit when I can get around to putting that thing out on Twitter. We are also sponsored by the wonderful folks at Omni Update, the leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. The company's web CMS OU campus, well, it's secure, it's scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. Check out how one university recently rethought their printed card catalog with OU campus. And no matter what you do, guys, definitely check them out. The nicest folks in the industry. We are also sponsored by Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, doing challenges, and earning points. One professor recently took his students out of the classroom and into the wetlands with Scavenger. I'll send a link after that. And IBM's been doing some crazy things with theirs as well. So definitely check out what's going on. And finally, we are sponsored by the fantastic folks at Converged Consulting, a measurable multi-channel marketing firm where they help their clients strategize, execute, and analyze their marketing efforts. They're partnered with HubSpot. They're getting data-focused, data-specific. You definitely want to see what they're doing. If you haven't already, check out Converge. So guys, that is the thanks to our sponsors, and we're about to dive right into the show tonight in just a matter of seconds. So please, if you can do me a favor, guys, as you can tell, my hands are free. I got a guest in the studio. Keyboards are over here. Feel free to share out the link. Let people know we're going to be talking about it. And I am going to be throwing out right now, actually, the link to join the show. And then we're going to dive right in with a couple stories of what's going on in the news and what we're thinking about. And we'll talk about what's going on with you guys, too. So I'm putting the link out right now. So you're going to have to stand by while I fire up a tweet. So So while I do, Justin, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit more about Welcome to College? Free chance to share a little bit of information, because I'm going to throw a tweet out and let you guys join the show in just a second.
Our mission at Welcome to College is to help high school students find the perfect fit for their college experience. And we do this by focusing on the college visit piece of the process. So we've designed and built mobile and web applications that are focused on the visit and allow users to search, rate, and plan everything around their college visit experiences. And in addition to that, as we were gaining users and feedback into the tool, we built a back-end dashboard that helps the institutions actually be able to measure the data and understand what the families are thinking about their visits to campus and have some ability to make improvements, and almost as a quality service assessment type of tool to understand what's going on and what the families are thinking while they're on campus. So.
Well, you guys know I love the data aspect of it too so much. So if you guys haven't checked it out, definitely do that. And I think we have ourselves our first guest as well. So let's go ahead and fire this up. We're going to see this a little bit new technology kind of vibe going on here. So let's see if this is working out okay. Welcome back to the program. Are you able to hear us all right? Not so far. That's okay. So we're going to keep moving on for just a second. It's new tech. We're trying here. We're doing our best. Bear with us. It's a bit of a wild show. If the train is going to be going off the track. So first, I want to talk about a story that's been kind of in the news, that's been going on a little bit. If you haven't followed it, I'm sure you guys probably did. Coursera made a huge announcement this week that there's going to be a lot more freemium offerings in the higher ed space. Basically, a whole bunch of universities joined on with Coursera and are offering free courses. The freemium model is one that's been, very hotly discussed, and it got a ton of press this week. And on the first hand, I'll say, that's good, that's great. We should be getting a lot of press. But it's been kind of interesting, like really what's been going on with the freemium model, what's going to be happening next. I'm really hesitant to think that a whole lot's going to happen from Coursera. I mean, if you think about the business model, it costs $30,000 for the schools that are participating to create that class, and then they're giving it away for free. And then at that point, it's either just me going out for free, or potentially there is something that can be done. They might be doing licensing, but at that point they get as low as 7 to 15% of a return on that, which is lower than market value, even from things as early in the 90s when schools did that. So, what do you guys think about Coursera? I'm really excited that education's moving online, but I don't think it's the silver bullet that people are thinking it is. I think, just because Penn State's going to put a couple classes online for free doesn't mean that it's going to change or rock our industry. I'm not convinced yet at all. And I think that the biggest challenge, too, is what are the outcomes from that, and how are we measuring that? If we're doing freemium educational content and it's not getting anything besides a certificate, how beneficial is that? 70% of employers right now in today's market are requesting an associate's or higher, requiring, not even requesting actually. So where is that going? What's happening in this space? I felt this week a little bit that the Coursera conversation has been a little bit short-sighted. And again, it's great that these universities are signing on, but my kind of vibe on this side is just personally that this looks like a whole lot of people that didn't really have a date for the dance, and they felt the dance was happening pretty soon, so they all just kind of to partner up real quick and get something out the door. And hey, I say welcome to the party to all of you. That's great. We should all be involved in this. We should all play a role in this. But is Coursera really going to change the world? I'm not so sure. Is freemium content really going to rock higher ed? Not in the short run. I think a lot more is going on. But I want to know if you guys have any thoughts on this as well. Again, you can call in. The link's out there. Join the show. Tell me I'm totally full of it if you want. But I don't know. That's been one story that's been following. And then Justin, I know you've been traveling around the country and stuff. What are your thoughts on the movement for more and more free classes going online? It definitely seems to me like that's a big vibe. Everyone's trying to get in on it.
We were out at the Launch EDU event in June out in Mountain View, California, and there was a lot of energy, a lot of talk, a lot of I feel like a lot of VC money out there for the folks that find a way to do this. However, I think you're hitting it on the head with, it's great that they're free, but I think at the end of the day, it's how are they really assessing that knowledge is being passed, people are learning, and it's impacting in true education. So I think one of the sessions I was at, somebody had mentioned we're in the first inning of online education, and I would have to agree in terms of with so much further to go and where this is all headed, so it's going to be exciting to follow.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, I think that the model for online learning hasn't really changed a whole lot since the 90s, actually, and this is a big step in the right direction in changing it. I do think there's some major milestones we need to get to, and I guess one of the things I'm curious about is you see New York Times, you see Washington Post, you see all these folks covering this story, right? You see it being talked about, but it's really surface level. It's like, oh my gosh, these schools are joining it. Is this going to be changing higher education? And I'm happy it's being covered, but at the same time, I think we need some folks to make a commitment to have a bit of a more in-depth conversation about online learning and how this stuff is going. I give Inside Higher Ed credit. They did a little bit. Audrey Waters is always someone at Hack Education I think does a great job of trying to address this stuff. But we need more of a conversation on a deeper level looking at what this stuff really means. It can't just be like, oh, they're giving out a free course, higher ed's been changed. I don't buy it. And I don't think it's going to change online learning either. I think the future of online learning isn't even going to necessarily be as self-paced as people think it is. That model is going to be shaky. One example is the MIT X class that they put out. The Stanford class, rather. Well, let me pull up. I have it written down. It is the MIT X open case. The first class that MIT X did had just 4.6% completion rate. That's incredibly low. So when we're talking about, 150,000 people took the class, but only 4.6% finished it, we have a persistence issue. I know obviously a lot of people are just trying it out, because why, if something's free and there's no sticker shock, anyone's going to try it. But persistence is a huge issue in higher education, especially in online learning. I mean, the for-profits are facing that right now with regulation coming out from Title IV. They have a lot of serious issues to consider with that. I really am skeptical that a self-paced model with a low cost is going to win. But again, whatever it is, I'm happy. Pull the story up again if you didn't read it. Check out Coursera. It's been a great conversation this week. My only thing is, guys, the conversation has to go a little bit further than just, cool, new, shiny courses online. Don't think that's enough. But another story that came out, there's also in Inside Higher Ed this week, was just a cool about how do you measure success in student affairs. I thought that was a really interesting article, and it brought up an interesting question. And the first thing that came to my mind was the fact that, how you even define student affairs is clearly very different from one institution to the next. But I think how you measure success should obviously be something that every unit of every part of every institution considers. But I want to know, I don't know how student affairs measure success. And people are talking about measuring how much students participate in events or what they do. It's very interesting. I think considering how we measure success in any capacity is important. Here at SNHU, our academic advisors are definitely measured on student performance, student success, how many they reach out to, how many they engage with. And I definitely think that's an important thing to consider. But it changes, based on whether you're just your student affairs folks are just more about student fit, student satisfaction. So I don't know, Justin, what are your thoughts? I know you guys work with data a lot with admissions. What are the thoughts on measuring success? What do you guys think when you approach, what's the success of a campus tour? It's a mindset, right?
It is, and I think actually I met with a university recently that I think is doing a bang-up job with how they're using data to work with their student tour guides. It's a University of South Carolina, and really was blown away by that they are having monthly meetings with their guides to break down the data, and they set goals at the beginning of the year, and they are meeting with them monthly to kind of see, percentages, if they're meeting and exceeding their goals that they set in terms of the reviews and the responses they're getting from their surveys. And so they track it for each tour guide, and they actually meet with them monthly. And I was really kind of blown away by that, because they use it as professional development for their tour guides, and being able to have that data and sit down and use it as a way to benchmark goals, and then also kind of look at their performance. And then from the student's perspective, they could go to their employers afterwards and say, while I was a tour guide at South Carolina, X percentage, of my tours said this about my tours, and they have some tangible feedback and data points that they can take to their job interview. So I thought they were doing a great job with how they're using the data to assess the student tours.
I think that's a really great example, because I definitely think it's it's kind of a common thing, but something we discuss here at SNHU a lot is you always need a scoreboard. Right. Because otherwise, if you don't have one, you just don't know how you're performing. And I know some folks say, oh, well, we don't want to do, but it's we're not just in the business of giving out hugs. And even if you are, you want to give out the best hugs and the most hugs you possibly can. Yeah. It's about kind of raising the bar a little bit and having some high standards and really trying to do something special with it. So I think you too. We have another guest or so. You're able to hear us this time, Mr. Beardman? Apparently not yet either. I'm getting no audio, unfortunately, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, sure. Right as I'm playing.
We'll work this out. We're getting there. Eric Running's there though with the beard. We're working on the call-in features. My camera's not working. This is working flawlessly right now. The tech here on our end is just absolutely brilliant. No problems at all. We're really happy with it. We're gonna try and fix it. Once I can hear Eric, he's gonna be chatting up a storm, I'm sure, and we'll make it happen. It could be him. It could be our end. We don't know. So in the meantime, I want to bring up another story that was a big one, which was last week. You guys probably saw we were live in Chicago at the StateMates Interactive Marketing Conference, Marketing Conference in Chicago, Illinois. We did a live stream of Teams Talk Live, which was this event where basically the teams sat around and for 90 minutes basically just laid into their entire experience with the college recruitment process. If you guys saw the event, I know a lot of you did. It was definitely the most viewed event we've ever done. It was just crazy. And a lot of the stuff they said was really interesting. Some of it was wild, but a lot of it was surprisingly, I would call it fundamental. So I want to talk about some of the takeaways from that, because that to me was like a big lesson. And the first one was something that Eric Sickler from StateMates said to me after the event, because we were talking about it, which I'm sure Justin, you know all too well, man, which is that at the end of the day, nothing recruits better than a relationship. And I think sometimes we kind of lose focus on that a little bit. That was the lesson I learned this week, is that we get really caught up in technology and stuff, and then all of a sudden what happens is it's about the people. The people saying that, oh, they remember my name. They gave me a phone call. They shook my hand. They sent me a really nice email follow-up. Or they were so helpful when I had a question. I don't know. Do you think relationships recruit?
Absolutely. And for our whole mission and what we're doing is trying to get these students to go on campus and take the visits, go experience this, meet the people, and that's a big part of it. Yes, we've created it so they could keep track of it, but again, it's keeping track of these personal touches, these relationships, these experiences when they engage on campus. And I was glad to see the response and how much the visit was impacted to those students in regards to their search process, because at the end of the day, you nailed it on the head. Relationships and that experience and feeling that in your gut, know that you're going to be successful there, is what it's all about.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a huge aspect. And the other thing, this is, your wheelhouse, so there's about 15 students on the panel. Every one of them was talking about the importance of the actual campus visit. Again, loaded question for you, obviously, but I do think that we undervalue sometimes for traditional education the value of the campus visit. I'm not sure that's replaceable.
Right.
No, and so let me ask you a question. Here's a question. This came up in the conversation that students said, not all, I'd say probably 10 out of 15, that they asked, when was the point that you picked a number one school? And most people said, oh, I had a number one right away. Or I made a list, I searched, and I found one. but every one of them said the moment that they knew was when they walked on campus. Is it really, I mean, it's not that that's that simple, but it's pretty amazing that people are saying consistently across the board that I knew when I walked on campus.
My philosophy on that has always been, I truly believe campuses have a personality just like people. And there's an ethos, there's something in the culture, there's something in that you can't touch, feel, understand, except in your gut. And you know it when you know it. And I think, there's something going on with the campus culture that definitely speaks to people, and when it's the right fit for you.
Yeah, so how for a school that works with you guys, for instance, and how do they address that? How does school say? I mean, is it just about making a better campus tour, or is it about finding what the students really want to hear about and connecting in with what's relevant to them?
I think the key of it is understanding who you are as a university, and not just spitting facts out about that, but telling stories about it, or creating experiences that, if you've got certain faculty that have reputations that are students love, or find a way to get that faculty engaging with your prospective students so they can kind of feel and understand what that is all about, or create an experience that's going to leave a lasting impression for them while they're on their visit. I think so many times on the campus tour, guides can get so caught up in just giving facts, and there's so many people that do that if you're not telling the stories about your culture and what makes you unique, I think you're missing a great chance to fully.
That's a really good point. I mean, from the campus tours that I've been involved with and been around, there is a difference too with whether what's leading the story or what's leading the tour. Is it a story or is it a map? Is it just let's just walk between these buildings, or is it there's this thread that from the first 10 minutes to the last, you're getting this really long narrative and this really interesting story versus just being pointed at buildings and just listed what's in there. That's totally true.
Absolutely.
That was an interesting one. There's a lot of other takeaways too. If you guys watched, I love it. Okay, so this one woman in the audience, I mean, bless her, asked the students, what do you guys think of QR codes? And then there was this light pause of crickets. And then this person that says, what's a QR code? Followed by, I don't have a smartphone. And about a third of the room burst into applause/laughter because they were excited for that answer. And about a third were in utter terror, probably because they had QR codes all over all their welcome information maybe. I think it's, I don't know, I thought that was interesting. I'm not saying that means that QR codes have absolutely no value, although I've said that largely they don't before. But that was an interesting wake-up call that it's not like all of our students are, one, incredibly forward-thinking, tech-savvy, using new tech tools, and two, not sure they really give a shit if we do that all the time. I think what they care about is that we're communicating with them in a way that makes sense. I don't know, what are your thoughts? I mean, again, this is not a QR code bash thing, but I just thought that it was a nice, it was a sobering answer to a question that I was glad was answered.
My thoughts on that kind of go back to it's the simple little things that make the biggest difference. Like you said before, maybe before the show we're talking, the smile, the personal touch, the remembering my name, those type of things that are so basic are at the end of the day what wins still so often.
Yeah, I definitely think it's kind of let's not get lost and get too ahead of ourselves. I mean, I don't know you guys I don't have any time. I have no time. And even at work, I have no time. So it's when I have time, I have to be really efficient with what I'm doing. And we can't just always get caught up in new, interesting, crazy things and try to force them to work. Let's focus on things that matter. So here's my last question. This is the first. I'm gonna say a hard statement. So here's my question: what's worth more than investing in a whole bunch of technology, maybe, or literally putting one more body into that admissions team so there's a smaller ratio so people get more of an engagement? I mean, if you're talking about it's interesting. Schools spend a lot of money on this, a lot of money on that. What's the value and what scales? It's funny that I don't hear a lot of conversations, maybe because it's not something that people talk about online as much. But it's not much I know it would really help the unit next year. One more person, so that way the ratios are smaller, and students and every incoming student gets one more phone call, or a little bit more personal time. I don't know, that scales, and that kind of makes sense. It was, again, sobering. It was kind of cool. And then this is a question. So the one point, not every student has a smartphone. This was interesting to me, and you guys have apps and stuff going out there. So what are your thoughts on the marketplace right now? Because statistics show that a lot of students do have smartphones. Obviously, a lot of folks have it going on. Hey, we got another guest joining us, the one and only Ashley Hennigan. Ashley, are you able to hear us? Okay? Can anyone hear us? No, I get no audio.
I have an echo.
How am I getting no audio from anybody calling in here? I'll show you guys. Everyone at home can watch me trying to talk to Ashley right now and her just awkwardly looking into the camera wondering, Seth, how are you not capable of making this technology work? And I'm absolutely letting her down, so my apologies. I can't hear anyone. We have no audio going on whatsoever, so this is just really, really sad. I can see people. Maybe the whole point of tonight's show is that people in higher ed are going to come on and wave. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Eric Runyon, please wave. This is the show. This is just a new idea, guys. We don't need to hear from you guys. We just need you guys to come on and wave. That's what it's all about right now. Mostly because for whatever freaking reason, I cannot hear a freaking thing from Google Hangouts right now, and I cannot figure out why. But I'm going to try to figure out in just a second.
This is interesting.
Let's see. No. Guys, guess what we're going to do? This is called Awkwardly Watch Seth.
We just lost
Try
him.
to make things happen. This is what
Can you
he's
still
doing
hear
right
me?
now.
Yes.
Yeah, so apparently other people can
the audio
hear.
from his
This is good.
feed there.
This is good.
Now
Okay.
we're back.
I can. Tell you what.
Now we can hear.
Hold on, stand by. Let me try this. Everybody stand by.
Yeah,
This is what happens.
Seth,
I'm going to try to exit this and get back
Go
into this.
down
Nothing's
and we'll
gonna change.
figure it out
That's what
really
I'm gonna
quick.
do. Gosh, technology. You know, the good news is I've done this show so much that I don't run into tech issues anymore, except for all the freaking time. It's pretty broken. It's pretty tiring. But, you know, what are you going to do? So the question, while I'm setting this back up, smartphones. So not all students have smartphones, but a lot of folks statistically do. What have you seen with smartphone usage with students? I mean, is it about being used by everyone, or is it about, you know, those power users? Oh, wow, we got audio right now.
There we go.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yes, hold on right now.
Yay.
I can totally hear you. Let me just get this moved up. And oh my gosh, guys, it was just my browser. Yes, now the show is getting all exciting. This is what we came to do, right? So, okay, question, guys. Let's change the regions on this. Now we're about to have some fun. I don't know why. This is Google Hangouts. It's new or whatever. So my question's going to go to Justin first and then to you guys. What are your thoughts on smartphones, and what are your thoughts on the idea that marketing towards a student body that not everyone has the same approach to technology? I mean, so not every student has a smartphone. So what do you guys do when you put out a smartphone application thing? Then, you know, are you trying to reach everybody? Or are you just trying to reach those students that want to have that experience?
Yeah, we're trying to reach those that want to have that experience, but also on our site, you know, we make it clear that they could download, if they don't have a smartphone, they could download all these surveys that they need to take and take a paper pen if needed to, or come back and fill it out on the desktop.
Really?
So we do have a PDF download on the site.
So you guys go old school. So basically, okay, so folks don't know. So the application, more or less, here's my novice. You tell me if I'm totally off. You can use the application to track your campus visits, so that way when you go to visit 10, which we had some students saying they visited 12, those students can essentially be able to compare and reflect on a level that's more than just like, what's the little bit that I remember.
Correct.
But so you don't limit the experience. You actually tell, in 2012, you tell people, you can just get a pen and paper. That still works too. And you can just write it down and print it out. I actually really love that.
We have a download PDF for you to bring in if you don't have an app, and then come back, and then when you're at your computer, load it in. Now, it's interesting. I mean, I'd say that, you know, I'd say 80% of schools are probably still using paper pen for their evaluations. I mean, which is fascinating.
Well, let's find that out. Ashley, you should know this. Schools using. What are your thoughts on schools using paper? How are people capturing information after campus tours, and how should they? What are your thoughts? I mean, is this something that is still being done with like reviews on paper? Or just schools capturing? Is everyone capture even reviews after people do tours?
Yeah, well, we had this conversation recently, and right now we're not evaluating daily visits on paper or electronically, more just keeping, I guess, our own notes on how things are going, but we definitely do evaluations for all of our major campus events, so all of our open houses. We have a big overnight program coming up tomorrow night, so there's definitely evaluations for those. They're all in paper form, and the main reason is because we want folks to be filling them out throughout the day during the campus event, and we could do that on an app, but we're going to get more responses, we think, with the paper app, because people will take the evaluations around throughout the day. They'll make notes when they're in sessions, so they'll kind of do things like that. So we're still looking for the high return, and going electronically might get us, I think we would still have to do paper and electronic for a little while before we just move over to an app.
Okay, very interesting. So I want to bring up another question then, and I'll throw it out to all the panel of folks that have joined us live. It's just more of a curiosity thing. So one of the things that again, Eric Sickler from StateMate said to me that we were talking, he said, you know, people need to stop recruiting just people and start recruiting prospects. And one of the things he meant by that was that like 90%, or was it 80 or 90% of students go to school within 60 miles of their home. with their original home. He said no, that doesn't mean you can only recruit 60 miles. He said, but we need to use data to understand who we're trying to reach and not just try to like be everything to everyone and actually be more targeted with that stuff. So, I mean, is that a good example of talking about like distance? And again, I think it's one example, but I think it's fair that
Yeah.
I mean, your prospect pool can't start out with everybody, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting question because you need to know what your school's proximity is to who you're graduating, I think. So you want students that are going to come to your campus and be successful there and be successful afterwards. And if you're producing the kinds of students that are going to go work like in cities all over the country, then yeah, maybe you do want to pull students from all over. If you know you're a more regional campus, then you want to target that market that's going to work for you more regionally. So I think it's more of really understanding who you are as an institution, and then trying to find those kids that are going to be successful with what you do.
That makes sense to me entirely, but I still find that to be quite interesting. I think it's a very fair thing. I think people need to think about that more. When you go to schools, I mean, do schools have like a personics thing? Like we have personics here where we think about like here's what the students are going to be like essentially looking like. Here's where they fit. Do schools have that? I mean, how detailed have you seen it?
Yeah, I've met some schools and some VPs that it's a pretty incredible the data that they have in terms of their pipeline and funnel, and they can totally understand and know where their core students are going to come from and their past, how universities use past data to plan for the for their classes. I think it's pretty incredible the amount of data that's out there. I don't have a total knowledge of that, but I know that VPs and directors, I mean, they have some serious data that shows all that type of stuff.
Cool. So listen, guys. First off, we're sitting in the dark because the lights are on sensors here, and that's what happens. So secondly, we've been talking a whole lot about the things that interest me because, well, I mean, first off, it's my show, so I totally get to do that, which is the best thing. I think Ashley can totally back me up on that. But beyond that fact, I want to open it up and talk about what's going on with you guys. So, I want to throw it out. Look, Eric, can I actually hear you now? Eric?
I think so.
I think I can. Eric, what's going on, man? How's your week going? What's going on in your world right now?
Well, actually, this is a timely discussion because I have a question that I wouldn't mind hearing back from other people.
Sure.
We are getting ready to redo our tour, which is currently just a static website, and we're going to be building it out into more of a... It's still going to be web-based, but it's going to be much more interactive. And so I'm curious as to people who are more entrenched in admissions, what are the most important features that they think should be in a tour application?
Okay, so this is an online tour, right? So it's for folks to do exclusive online. Very good question.
Well, also, if they're on campus, too, we're going to build in location-based stuff.
Okay, so to clear, this is good. So ready for this? I'm excited. So first, let's talk about. So the goals are someone could do this exclusively online, or complement them. They're on campus, or is this only to complement the on campus?
Correct. It's both.
Both. Okay, that's good. So it's kind of two different audiences, two slightly different needs, which is cool. The challenge. So let's start with. I'm going to start with Ashley. You're up. What do you think should be included on something like this? What do you think needs to be there if Notre Dame's really looking at kind of what they're going to do for both an online tour and how online can support a campus visit traditionally?
Well, this could serve a few different audiences, but obviously I'm going to say that you should think about admissions first and steal their general campus tour that they give to students and then build on top of that. So make it really easy to show what someone would see if they were going to do a normal tour at Notre Dame, and then build from there and add the little tidbits that they didn't get to see. But that's just basic.
I will. Cool. I'm gonna throw out a few things. One thing, for instance, Eric, I'm curious. There's been talk. I've heard a lot of about doing augmented reality stuff in person. It is what it is. I'm gonna share one quick story before I throw it to Justin. And this is your sweet spot too. So in 2008, I was put on a panel of folks at UCLA to do a virtual tour. I was subsequently thrown off that panel because my ideas were too big. It's been long enough. We can share. I love UCLA. It's okay, guys. This is like, it's all water under the bridge, right? It's water under the bridge. So I was thrown off the committee because I pitched that we didn't need to do a massive, six-figure online thing. What we need to do is is address core functionality. And so for online people, addressing that portion of it specifically, is the fact that it needs to be self-navigable. So you can self-navigate. And it needs to also be self-paced, so you can spend as much time as little as you want. So the idea that I pitched, which ended up getting used by other folks because I shared it, was to do, at the time, was a YouTube campus tour, so utilizing YouTube annotations and letting folks land on a main tour, and then essentially saying, where do you want to go next? And letting them direct where they wanted to go. So like, for instance, if you pass the science building, and this is online, like, okay, do you want to go in and hear about the science classes or not? And you don't have to, you only hear what you want. So the idea was to create a tour that could be done in 6 minutes or 60 minutes, entirely based on what you wanted. And the best part of the online is you could keep linking to other content you've already created. So that's been a big thing for me, is just like self-navigation is huge, and not self-navigation just by a map, because the one tough thing with map-based ones is if you don't know the institution, it's tough to find your way around on a map. It's just like if you're there in person walking around with a piece of paper trying to find your way. So you need to give people some incentives, let them know that they can direct themselves at least a little bit. I really, really think self-navigation is huge, and self-pace is huge. Just because some folks want to spend 5 minutes, some want to spend 50. That would be like one big thing I would pitch. So please don't throw me off your committee, though, Eric. I would really be heartbroken again if I was.
It reminds me of the old Choose Your Own Adventure books.
That's exactly what I pitched it as. First off, again, because I loved Choose Your Own Adventure books, because I'm a massive dork, and that's okay.
Right.
I love those because exactly, you could flip ahead, and then if you didn't like it, you'd flip back and find a new one. And I really think that model works for students that have a short attention span and want what they want. And the cool thing about is you can link to content outside of your tour. So I'm sure, like with the stuff you guys have done, you have a ton of content already created. You know, you have interviews with faculty members or interesting stories going on. So you could be, again, at the science building and then it's like learn more about the program. And then you're literally linking them back off, not just the tour, but do you want to like go see faculty profiles or read news about the thing? You can incorporate all this content that already exists as like all this extras on the side that people can kind of drill down. In a way, it's like 100 people could have 100 different tours, but all through the same experience. But so that's online, and that's the kind of thing I've thought about. But I've never thought, at UCLA, I wasn't involved in on campus, so that's a little bit of outside of my realm. So I mean, Justin, this is more your sweet spot. So what are your thoughts on what needs to be done to do something that's utilizing online technology to support an on-campus portion of that tour, so a student can complement that?
Yeah, I would say, I've looked at a lot. I've seen a lot of stuff on this piece, and I think one of the things that I know that students can see right through is that if and so many of them are like this, where it just feels like a commercial, or somebody's just on their virtual thing, and it just feels like they're reading a script again. And I feel like the ones that are really, to me, that hit home are maybe similar to what you said with the navigational piece. I know St. Michael's College did something with YouTube videos where they let you kind of pick where you wanted to go next. And there was something that was real about that wasn't just this feeling of like just spitting out information at me. And I think one of the things I was thinking when you first asked that question, Eric, was I would actually pull together a focus group of your guides that are actually going on the visits or running the tours right now, and having a real conversation with them about the pieces of the tour, because I have no doubts that Notre Dame, with the history and aura and tradition that you guys have, there's probably certain parts of that tour where the cameras all start coming out, or the looks on the faces, or the feelings. You start seeing the smiles, and try to maybe pull in, as you're looking at doing something virtual, how to capture those moments and those kind of key pieces of the stories with the real students as you're thinking about developing that. And I don't have the exact answer to it. I know I had a phone call today with one of the founders of UVisit, and they do a lot of virtual tours. I'd be happy to make a connection with you in terms of just another person to talk to about virtual tour experiences, because I know they do a lot in that.
And I'll say one thing too, Eric. I don't know if this is a concern you have, but like one thing when I'm thinking more and more about this, so it's like, how does technology complement the campus visit? And in a way where like you really don't want the person to be walking like with their head down at their phone, because we're talking, the whole thing we talked about before is like relationships matter and like really experiencing the campus visit. So it's a really good question, which is like, and I'm having a hard time thinking of this right now. It's like you don't want to tell them to put their phones away. You want to complement things. But with a guided tour, for instance, it's like you don't want them to be so distracted that they're also losing out on what's already being there. So I don't know if it's complementary information, if it's extra information. I'll say one thing, side note, I think one side component I think would be interesting to consider is self-navigated in-person tours. So giving someone a map or something that says, here's the points 1 through 30, and here's a simple go online and click, and you can listen to an audio recording. And you could, in theory, listen to that audio recording in different languages. And that would be super easy to record and set up, I mean, compared to a lot of other technology. And that's where, so if someone's on campus at 10 o'clock at night or on a weekend when campus visits or tours are full, you know, is there a way that they can give themselves a really rich experience without meeting somebody? And that's, I think it's interesting because, I mean, I know at UCLA, those campus tours would have like 100 students in them, and if you were at the back, you weren't hearing anything. You were not a part of the tour. It was like these long, insane caravans, and the reason was because they just could never get enough students to give all the tours. I mean, they would get 90,000 applications. It was just, and I get that their situation's extreme, but it's to the point that people were losing out on that in-person experience. And so I do think there's, well, okay, maybe can technology complement that? Or maybe people are told, just to give yourself your own tour. Don't put an hour and a half away. Just, you know, here's the map. Here's the, you know, the application or native website you can go on, and you can do these things, and mobile web. I don't know. I think it's interesting. But what if you, well, let me throw the last person here. So I know we got Brittany here as well. Brittany, do you have any thoughts? I want to welcome you since you've been sitting so patiently. What do you think about rethinking campus visits with technology, mobile, either online, on campus? What are you thinking?
That's pretty interesting because can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's the first time I've used this app, is that I'm actually on a committee at my university is pretty small. It's only 17,000 students, but I'm on a committee of signage and wayfinding. So we're trying to revamp all of our campus signage, and maps have been a big thing of it, you know, and it's like, well, our online map, we make sure it's right and up to date, and what can students do with that on their smartphones. And so sort of thinking about that, we haven't thought about a lot in terms of recruitment, you know, although, you know, some. So that's kind of an interesting viewpoint. I'm actually in our communications office, but I do a lot with our recruitment folks. So I'm kind of in sort of a middle place. So that's kind of an interesting way to think about those. Oh, and let me throw in about the smartphone. Our students, we find a lot of them actually have most of them have the smartphones, and they're using them, some of them as their main internet tool, because some of them come from, I'm actually in Mississippi, some of them come from up in the developing area, some of the poorer areas of the state, and they don't actually have other access to internet. And so for us, we're finding that that's really important. So we're really working a lot with our web folks to get those websites and things in line with being responsive and working. So,
hey, Brittany, can I just tell you?
Kind of a different way to take on it, but.
Brittany, let me just tell you, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that's such a really, really great point, and that's something that I don't think it's kind of an interesting situation that people don't always address, which is the fact that for lower income, first generation minority students, a lot of times the internet connection that they're using to go to your website, to submit an application, to find information, is their mobile phone. Their smartphone is their only internet connection in the home. And that's something to think about. You know, I mean, obviously, we have Eric here on the show. We talked a lot about already responsive design. We talked about mobile with him before. You know, I know for myself, I didn't always think about mobile that way. I thought about mobile as like someone on the couch with their phone, or someone who could go to desktop, but this is more convenient. And there is this, you know, this is the only computer that a lot of students have. And then it brings up a lot of questions, which is, you know, how do they apply via this? Can they write a paper on this? Like, there's a lot of things to consider, and I think it's such an awesome point that you brought up. That I think we think about mobile sometimes as this extra, this awesome thing, but it's also about, you know, students that's the only access they might have. You know, I couldn't agree more. So Eric, let me throw it back to you for a second. You know, you've clearly been thinking about this for a while. You know, what are the things that you guys are thinking about? That's a really awesome question about building something that complements. I think the idea of even utilizing signage, by the way, going off of Brittany's discussion of signage, that there's a lot of opportunity there on campus. But I don't know. What is there? How far along are you guys in the process? Do you guys have any idea of what you think you might want it to look like?
We've only had 2 meetings so far, so it's pretty early. We do have plans to bring in the admissions, and we actually went on a tour recently, guided tour by one of the students to get a feel for what people on tour get on campus. And the thing that we came away with a lot was the sort of the off-script information about some of the locations, more of the interesting tidbits, not just about here's the classes that go on in here, this is what this building is used for. It's more of like a number of the buildings in the central area of campus are made out of a yellow brick, and that brick comes from mud that was pulled out of the lakes. And just different interesting facts that we would like to put in the tour somehow. And allow people to branch out. And with it being, with trying to do the on-campus guided tour using geolocation and whatnot, there's also the understanding that people have different time slots that they're trying to fit at this tour, and so we want to be able to give them the opportunity to say, this is how long I'm going to be on campus, this is sort of the things that I'm interested in, either the religious aspect or the athletics or the academics, and be able to programmatically come up with a tour that fits within that time frame and meets the criteria that they want to see. And then be able to say, start here, go here, go here, go here, sort of tour. And then somehow, just add a lot of interesting facts that they can dig deep into a location if they want to, or they can just move on to the next.
Well, first up, I know you said you're only 2 meetings in, but I'm already booking you to come on once you guys launch that, because it sounds you are actually pretty far along in in the way to think of it, and I'm really excited to see that take shape. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So I know it just looked like Rachel Rubin, the one and only Rachel Rubin, joined us, but then her camera went away. So now it's just a sad black box without a Rachel Rubin there. So we'll work on getting her back and doing more. So in the meantime, let's toss it over to my partner in crime, Ashley Hennigan, once again, who I was in Chicago with last week. As you guys know all too well, hosts Admissions Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Ashley, what's up in your world? I know you've been traveling this week. You've been kind of all over, but what's going on? Catch me up.
Well, I wanted to come a little bit more on the tour thing real quick, because
it's your world.
We launched a virtual tour this year, and one thing that we were thinking about was always having to refresh the tour. We build new buildings on campus every year, and the tour script changes every year, so thinking about how we were going to have to maintain that and keep all of that content fresh. So we took all of our social media content and just geolocated it to our virtual tour using Google Map data. So we just matched the data points with the social media streams, and now when you go through the tour, wherever you are, you can see the social media that was fed from that location. So YouTube videos of events that happened in the space, or photos, or whatever. You can almost geotag anything now. So actually just got totally. I got a new fancy camera. Check this out.
What kind of camera is that? I'm looking at.
It's a Nikon 5100.
Wow.
And I got myself an iFi card. So at this overnight event that we have this weekend, we're going to be taking photos and uploading them with their little geolocation tag to the cloud, put into our Flickr account, I think. So that's going to happen all weekend. So I'm excited. Wow. I got a new toy, and we're going to play with it tomorrow.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And, when you talk about that, actually, one idea came back up to my mind I meant to mention. I want to let you guys in a little bit of a secret. We're talking about campus tours a lot. One of the things that came up in my mind is how do you separate the campus from academics? And it's obviously really hard. Some students, the fit matters, but the fit's both an academic fit and an on-campus cultural fit. Just one thing, a lot of programs have open houses. On-person ones, you can come into the specific program, meet faculty, do other things. Shouldn't say it. Make sure to move around. But we're rolling out, starting in next week, a whole new thing called on-demand online open houses at SNHU. And it's going to be us creating open house content, essentially, and breaking it into small chunks, 2 to 3 minutes long. So a program might have 40 minutes worth of content. You can click academic information, meet the faculty, weekly assignments, admissions requirements, next steps, all of that. And it's all based by not only by program, but it's all built dynamically with YouTube's API. So all we have to do is create a YouTube playlist of different program videos. It automatically pulls in all that information and creates a site totally customized for that program. So that way we essentially will be rolling out, hopefully across, at some point, all of our 180 program and concentrations here at SNHU. That's a terrifying number when we're launching one next week, and we have 179 to go. But we are trying to find this thing where your students at any time can get access to this open house experience online. That was one that I felt like, it's weird. I noticed, as someone who I was looking to go to grad school, I went to USC. I am obviously enrolled in the MBA program here at SNHU now. But I looked at USC and they had this, they had an open house. And then I thought, there are no open houses online. We just have websites. And a website with text and one video is not the same thing as spending an hour on a campus and meeting faculty and connecting with folks. So that's kind of cool, a little in the same vein that we're launching. That's going on with us. So I would toss it to Rachel Rubin, but again, her camera turned black. So let's just go ahead and pull up that sad black empty box where Rachel Rubin should be, but she's not because she's having some kind of problems with Google Plus Hangouts. She's trying. We appreciate that. We're going to get her on the show at some point. Mallory claimed she was going to join, but her internet's too slow. So if you guys are watching, do me a really favor, do one favor tonight. Please tweet Mallory Wood right now, at Mallory Wood, and give her a hard time about the fact that her internet's too slow. It's because she lives in the middle of nowhere. She lives in the woods. She's on the end of a long dirt road, and her house is made of sod, so you can't blame her entirely. But if you guys want to just tweet her and say, hey, Mallory, your sod house on the end of that dirt road really needs some internets, please. That would be great for all of us. I would really appreciate it if you guys could make that happen. All right, what else is going on? What else do we want to talk about? We have a lot going on. I'll tell you what I'm dealing with. Here, since we're working on our new TV spot. So we've been running national TV advertisements on cable. So we're hitting the road in a few weeks on our next spot. I can't tell you too much about it, but some people got a sneak preview of it earlier. I didn't say that, but it was a week traveling.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. So I've never been involved in that before. That's been a really exciting career challenge for me. I've never been involved in a TV commercial of this size and of this magnitude, so that's been crazy. And it's been the side of advertising I didn't experience as much. You know what I mean? Like doing, looking at I don't know, television advertising. That's been a big thing with me lately. Oh my gosh, is this Rachel Rubin? Rachel, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we're stopping the show right now and bringing Rachel on. Rachel, welcome to HigherEdLive. It's been a long 48 minutes that you've been fighting with Google Hangouts. We're going to lose you in like 30 seconds, I'm sure. So
I had to uninstall and reinstall their stupid plugin 3 times, so we'll see if it sticks this time.
But
see Chrome too. What the heck?
Hey, I appreciate. Well, I cut no audio for like the first 10 minutes, and I looked like a fool, being like, "Hey, everyone, call in just so you can wave at me, and I can't hear you." So it's been one of those shows. So Rachel, how are you?
Okay.
Yeah, what's new in your world? What would you like to discuss? This entire show right now, all of us here are at your disposal. What conversation would you like to have? The show, ready, is paused for Rachel. Pause, and I deliver you an open platform on the internet.
Well, as I've been popping in and out over the 45 minutes or so, I've heard bits and pieces of various conversations, and so kind of wanted to comment on a couple of them. I heard you talking about your new open house online, on open house, whatever you're calling it. You had a cool name.
On-demand online open houses.
Yeah.
I like alliteration.
I'm feeling like, especially with all the news this week with Coursera and whatnot, that we went through this about 10 years ago. In the late 90s, it was all about, all the classes are going to move online, and that's when Blackboard, came around and hit big time. But it was ahead of its time then because very few people had, cable access for internet, let alone, Verizon Fios and those kinds of things didn't exist yet. So the technology, the telecom infrastructure wasn't there to support it 10 years ago, but people were having these same kinds of conversations back then. So I know when I was at SUNY New Paltz then, we used a software product called Chat University to have on-demand kind of open house and also scheduled open house events. And that was in the late 90s. They got bought out by someone. I don't remember who. But it's just interesting to see how, same thing with mobile. The mobile was kind of, it started to come about 10 or more years ago, and then it kind of faded because the technology wasn't really there. The adoption wasn't really there yet. And now, and that's, obviously taking off more strongly this time. So it's just interesting to see these kind of patterns and how a lot of things are kind of reminiscent of a decade or more ago.
Yeah. So let me ask you that question. I thought I said everybody then, because first off, I totally agree. And so on being a bit of a pessimist, which is not my bag, I'm posse as heck. Does that, do we think that this is because we're just going to keep having the same conversations and on the ground things won't really change that much, or are things really changing? Where are we in 2012? I mean, I was talking about Coursera at the beginning of the show a little bit too, and talking about that, where I think that model's really going, and I don't know. I mean, I know we hear a lot about, some folks like to talk about, getting flattened, and I think if it's more, I said the other night on Twitter, HigherEdLive or higher ed will not get flattened. It's going to slowly get squished. But it's just like really, really slow. It's like Play-Doh, and it's just kind of like squeezing out into a new shape. I know, what was it? 2010 was the year of mobile. I missed it. What happened? Where'd it go? If 2010 was the year of mobile, what's next? I don't know. For all that things change, things kind of just stay the same. Thoughts?
It's all about timing. It's also why some the .com, some made it in the late 90s and early 2000s, and some didn't, and some were ahead of their time. It's all about timing. And right now, there's infrastructure, there's technology to support these online initiatives, and because the big name Ivy schools are starting to pay attention and realizing, the brick and mortars are in trouble, they're trying to figure out how they need to reinvent themselves. So I think it's a timing thing again, and it's exciting to be part of and see what's coming next.
That I definitely agree. Anyone else want to weigh in before I somehow just go on some awesome epic rant? Ashley's too busy having some kind of delicious beer she's trying to hide from us, but not going to happen. I think Justin and I we're making a run to Strange Brews after this. Going to meet up with my beautiful wife at Jillian Odell. Anyways, so I think it is an exciting time. Let me ask. This is a good question. So let's expand on that. I have only been in higher ed since 2007. I have never been more excited in my life for anything than I do right now. I think the opportunity is endless, and I do think technology can help us scale opportunity. And it's so cool, at SNHU that we now have 14,000 students online. And that's a 60% growth in a year. That's crazy, and this is students getting access to education. Things are happening. I couldn't be happier. Justin, what do you think, man? Here you are. I know people know Justin, but you definitely rolled the dice with your entire life to be a part of this space and to be using tech to do these things. You're going all in. What you're doing. How exciting of a time is it?
It's super exciting, but I do also know, at least from my perspective too, as a startup in the ed space, one thing that I'm always looking at is the landscape, and I feel like now the cost of launching a startup, there's not as large of a barrier as there once was. So I think you're seeing a lot more ed tech startups popping up all over the place because it's the opportunity to do one now, as opposed to 10 years ago, is much easier entry point. However, I think it ultimately comes down to the value that is being provided from that. And if you're providing something that's helping somebody's life, or to make somebody's life easier, or to simplify it, or provide them with data that can help them improve something on their institution, I think those are the things in the end are ultimately going to keep surviving and sustaining. I know when I bought the domain Welcome to College, it was 2004. And
really? Wait, you bought the domain in 2004?
I bought the domain in 2004.
I bet you didn't know that. I had no idea. So why'd you buy it in 2004 if you didn't?
I was in grad school at UVM, at University of Vermont, and I remember sitting in class thinking about online education and the whole thought Welcome to College. I originally bought it thinking Welcome to College, this could be some sort of online education site. And I bought it, and then eventually, as I got more active with the tour program, my passions are with the visit. It started coming together that no, this isn't necessarily an online education site for in that element. It's more of an online resource and tool to help students in the whole visit experience. But it was 2004, which was before Facebook, before all that stuff, and there was something that was exciting me though with the growth of the web in that time to see that was available and grab it. But that's a little side story from our history.
That's a good story, man. Dude, I had no idea. I love that. But it's just to show, as much as things change, the vibes. And so okay, back then, one more thing. So it's been 2004 to today. How is it different, or is it just the conversation has advanced? But do you feel like is there just a genuine question? Is there a spark in the air? Is it crazy? Or is it just it's always been like this?
I think the spark has come from social and mobile. I think as those two continue to and have gone nuts over the last 5 years, that's where I think, between those two things, with technology, I think that has caused, at least for me, a feeling like there has been some change and some transformation in regards to what's happening, in regards to how you can connect with people, the relationships that you could form via online, and now with so much of it being on mobile and where that continues to go, and the tablets and all that kind of stuff.
The one thing I think is actually really nice about where we're at too is I complain a lot about sometimes coverage of ed tech and of online learning. Obviously, I'm invested in the space. I've kind of I've bet my horse. I'm putting my career behind it, and I believe in it. But I will say one really great thing about this time is that at least with ed tech and with online learning, mainstream media has latched onto this a bit more. When you do see a Coursera thing, again, I say, oh, it's kind of coverage is a little too big and a little too wide and not deep enough, a little too shallow. But it's being covered, and we're going into a major election, obviously, in November, and no one is talking about education. If in some capacity technology is going to make education be a conversation and people are going to be able to have that, that's amazing, because otherwise, it's a sad truth that right now in this culture right now, we were once, the United States at least, had the highest amount of college graduates. We're now 11th or 12th, depending on how you count. We have a president who claimed he wanted us to be back to number 1 by 2020. We have done almost nothing. We could have done almost nothing, less to try to accomplish that goal. At least here with EdTech, the timing is, we have people that are in the public that are thinking about education, that are passionate about it. That's really cool. That's really exciting. So I like that. So I dig it. I don't know. Eric, what are your thoughts, man? You work with technology and education in the year 2012. Is that awesome? Is that the same as 2011? What's going on?
Well, I'm just getting excited about the possibilities that we can do with the capabilities that built into the phones. So like geolocation and whatnot. We know so much more about what our visitors are doing, where they are, and so I think the real tricky part is trying to figure out how to take that information and modify what we're presenting them to be more relevant to their situation. So yeah, that's really exciting. And I'm curious to see how it's going to turn out with this new tool we're building.
Cool. Very cool. So listen, I want to do one more thing, guys. I know we're almost at 8 o'clock already. Rachel shows up at the party and we just turn the lights off on her. We're not quite yet, I promise, Rachel. I want to share one thing with you guys, and I want to see, for folks watching, if you're on Twitter, share it with the back channel, but for you guys here too, what's one thing lately that you've learned or that you've thought about that's just been kind of an interesting new tip of something that's either on your radar, something that's cool, something that's worth sharing, and I'll kick it off so all you guys can just scratch your heads right now and think about it. What's one interesting thing I'm working on that I might want to share? Super small level, low-hanging fruit. It's already hanging off the vine. You just got to catch it and serve it up to HigherEdLive. So my example of something that's been on my mind lately, at SNHU, it's a small thing, but in the past month we've had 5 posts that are all 5 top 5 most engaged posts ever for our university on Facebook, all in 1 month. 5 of the past 8 posts have been, and it came from a simple strategy shift, and that was essentially that we decided we wanted to stop doing 2 things. We wanted to stop fragmenting our audience and post with prompts. And so what I mean is, it's a simple thing, is that your audience on a Facebook page for your university are a lot of different people. They're alums, they're students, they're parents, they're friends, they're faculty, they're staff, they're community members. And we were previously putting up posts that would only interest some of them, like, best of luck with the new term start. But if folks aren't starting a new term, you're instantly fragmenting your audience, that only certain members of your fan base are going to find that relevant. So we made a pact that we will not put anything on our Facebook page, if at all possible, that fragments our audience. So instead we put up posts which are like, tell us about your most inspiring teacher you've ever had. Everyone's had an inspiring teacher, It would be simple. What's on your summer reading list? What's something that you're trying to learn? When we did one that was really popular, we put up a map of the whole world, and we said, tag where you're from. And we want to know where you're from around the world. We ended up with this map with tags all over it, 100 comments going all the way down, and celebrating it. But again, it's just every one of those things every person who's a fan could do. And it's weird that before that we just hadn't really put those pieces together, that we would ask a question that wasn't relevant to everybody. And now everything is relevant to everyone. Everything, it's inclusive. Anyone can answer. Anyone who's a fan has been inspired. They're all from somewhere. They all want to learn something. So rather than doing something that's so granular, it's non-fragmented. And the other thing is we always post with prompts. So we always start with a question. It's not about us, it's about you, what inspires you. And then we might link to an article about something that inspires us, but where are you from? We're proud of the fact that we're an institution that has students from around the world. What are you reading? And we link to an article of what our president's reading and what a bunch of faculty are reading, But so it's always a question. So it's not fragmenting your audience and always prompting them to do something and having some call to action that's letting them contribute. Those two simple shifts in strategy, saying we're always going to put a post that's relevant to everyone, and we're always going to put a prompt to ask them to share something about themselves, have given us the 5 most engaged posts ever by far. And it's been kind of a simple shift, but it's been cool. And again, it's just it's just Facebook engagement. It's not changing the world, but it's been fun to see. So that's been a fun little thing going on in my world in the past couple of weeks. I know Rachel's looking at it. She's thinking. So I'm going to throw it to Justin first because I'm looking out for Miss Rubin. I want she has all the time in the world. Never mind.
Yeah.
Hold on, man. We're shifting it. I'm throwing it over, Rachel. All right. What's going on? What's a little tip or something that you've been dealing with? This is Higher Ed Rachel. Live.
So advertising has been one of my primary focuses recently, and we're working on our ad plan for media placements for the fall. And we got the plan back in May. We were revising it a bit. We were working on certain aspects. I'm not going to go into many details, but we ended up having to pull a significant chunk of what we were going to do and kind of redirect those efforts this week. And I've been trying to get my hands on any data possible. And we just completed a survey with parents of our students who applied last year. So we had over 15,000 applications in the last recruitment cycle, and we collected email addresses of parents of those students. And for those that we accepted in the regions that we advertised in last year, we did a survey with them, and I got some really interesting survey results that brought something to my attention that maybe because I'm not completely immersed in the enrollment side of the house, it was not on my radar. But when we asked, what are the of the advertising options below, and we gave them a list of about a dozen or so different advertising options or vehicles, which would you be most likely to notice? And the number one response, number one choice that was most selected was collegeboard.org. And that just completely, we have a profile there, we pay for a profile, but we've never really paid a whole lot of attention to it, and it's not part of our overall advertising campaign. We've been looking at other things, and last year we did New York Times online, we did New York Times color inserts, we did retargeting online, all kinds of different things, and really didn't pay much attention to the fact we did thankfully have a presence on collegeboard.org, and Hobson's Naviance is the other one that was also rated really highly. So so we're redirecting our efforts to look more at what our profile is like there, what we're paying for, what other opportunities there are for us there, and that's some low-hanging fruit that we could probably be doing more with what we're already paying for, and we just don't even know about it right now.
That's a really good example. That's really interesting, actually. That's surprising to me too. Now it's got me kind of scratching my head, and it's interesting. Sometimes it's interesting how that's the best thing about data. Data-driven decisions is it takes your own kind of, you don't always know, you have these preconceived notions, you think one thing or the other. I feel this way at least, and then you see some data and you're like, oh, okay, this is more interesting. So that's a great little tip. I like it, and so we're going to stay with our online friends. I'm going to throw it to Eric right now. Eric, what do you got going on? Anything to share? A little tip, something you're working on. What's going on in your world? What's your little low-hanging fruit? We're going to leave the wonderful interwebs before we wrap this fantastic program.
I don't really have much for you. Just really busy and excited about Adam Savage at HigherEdLive.
That's, pretty big announcement from HigherEdLive. HigherEdLive, guys, I'm sure if you guys have been following, rolling out serious announcements with speakers and then their keynote speaker, Adam Savage. It's no joke. It's in Milwaukee, too. Milwaukee. It's actually Algonquin for the good land. In case you didn't know that, it's a true story. You're not worthy. Wayne's World reference.
They get a pyrotechnics permit. I want him to blow something out.
I think it's entirely possible, and I just hope that people enjoy Milwaukee. It is a beer lover's town. It is a great state. Milwaukee. I like it. I like it. So, Justin, what are your thoughts, man? What's your takeaway? What's something you've been working on? Interesting lesson, tip, something that's been in your world.
Something that I last month had the ability to do was I attended a new conference that I had never been to or heard of before last year, and it's the Collegiate Information Services and Visitor Center folks. So anybody that runs their like visit program or tour guide program or open, all those type of programs, there's actually a conference and group of these folks that get together every year, and in short, it's CIVSA, CIVSA. And I went out this past June, this 4-day show in Denver, and the community of people around it was just a really energetic. I've never been in a room with so many former tour guides in my life. I mean, to just imagine that. And it's all these people all over the country who do these programs. And for us, it was super exciting just because of our niche and our web service. But, for anybody else, I mean, I took away, it's something I'm passing on to a lot of people I meet to say, hey, for your visit folks or your tour leaders and folks that run the programs, it's definitely, I think, a good professional development opportunity and something I left thinking, this is definitely worthwhile organization.
That's very cool, man. It's a good point. Sometimes you never know where you're going to kind of uncover a whole new group of folks to learn from.
Exactly.
I mean, just off that a little bit, I mean, at SNHU, we had shifted semi-recently into an internal ad agency model. So I know Eric's familiar with at Notre Dame. So we brought in some folks with agency experience. And as folks know with my background's TV news. I worked for ABC News and as an assignment editor, and then I went into higher ed. I didn't have agency experience, and so this is not a conference, but I'm suddenly surrounded with people with all this ad agency experience, and I'm learning so much in just a different capacity. And I love that. I love being able to learn from different people and people with different passions, and it's always nice when you kind of uncover this little pot of gold. It's like all this knowledge and passion, and you're like, wait a second, you like to talk and share it? Yeah. And then you're just like Sponge City, let's soak that up. Yeah. And that's what I get when I think about knowledge. I think Sponge City, soak that up. It's on my. That's actually my license plate, Sponge City. That's not true, but yeah, I really like. I like that. So I think it's pretty cool. So guys, listen, it is it's 8:08, and we are here in Manchester, New Hampshire, at the Mill Yard. Things, as you can see, are a little dark here. Folks have wrapped up for the day, and there is a little bar down the street called Strange Brews. It's got 100 beers on tap. And I was like, I don't want to go, Justin. I want to go home and study because I have a class where, and Justin was like, you're going to take me to Strange Brews and we're going to hang out. And I was like, oh, please, sir, no. And then he was like, he grabbed my arm and he twisted it, right? And I'm mostly saying this just in case my wife is listening because I'm going to call her and make her come out and visit us. But I swear, Jill, I tried. I was like, I need to go home and study. I can't. No. I want to go home and just rub my wife's feet and watch Gilmore Girls. The last half of that is totally true, actually. I don't care. I love Gilmore Girls. It's on the internet. I'll say it. That is the best show ever. But besides that, I was like, okay, Justin, fine. Yeah. Like, I'll go have beer with you instead of rubbing my wife's feet while watching Gilmore Girls and thinking about how cool Luke is, because he's really, really cool. So with that, guys, let me first start up by saying, Rachel and Eric, I'll pull you one second. Eric, first, thanks for joining the show, man, and calling in and hanging out with us tonight. It was a pleasant surprise having you with us.
Thank you, Seth.
And Miss Rachel Rubin, one of my all-time favorite people. Ready for this? Not in higher ed, just straight up, period. Life. That's life stamped, life approved. I love you, Rachel. I'm really glad you're able to join us this evening after like 49 minutes of absolute tech hell.
Yep.
Okay. It was really great to see you virtually. Rachel and I hung out a few weeks ago. You guys, well, that's a good story. You guys probably know Mike Petroff, right? Worked at Emerson, now he's at Harvard. If you ever wondered, Mike just got married. Rachel attended his wedding, as did I. And so who would officiate Mike Petroff's wedding? That'd be this guy. And on the record, Rachel, was I not like the best wedding officiant ever?
The best.
That's, yep. Official, approved, the best. It's on my LinkedIn profile. I marry people now. So that's the new skill. I'm getting like recruiters all the time. They're like, yo, I got like 8 weddings going on in Chicago. You think you can make it? And I'm like, I don't know, bro. Like I'm going all the way to Sydney. I got a whole thing going on. But that's not true, but it'd be cool. I liked it. So if you're getting married out there, this guy right here, that's what I do. So anyways, with that, clearly you can see that I am off the deep end, need to be reeling myself back in and go have a drink. So Justin, thanks for coming out, man.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. And I promised my family, I've been on the road for a week and my kids are watching. Hi Rosie, hi Julia, hi Joe, I'll be home tomorrow. Love you guys.
Yeah, And if they are watching, he's been talking about you all night. So he's a heck of a dad, heck of a guy in the industry. I appreciate you joining us, and I'm so glad this worked out. One last time again, my name is Seth Odell. This is Higher Ed Live. We are live from the Mill Yard at Southern New Hampshire University here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Every episode is going to be archived at HigherEdLive.com. We'll be back next week with a show all about Facebook roommate matching. Some really interesting new numbers are out from RoomSync. And their partner is going to be coming on. One of their clients is coming on, sharing some really interesting numbers about how they use Facebook to let students do roommate matching, and how that roommate matching has potentially led to decreased conflict and increased student retention. Maybe? Well, they're going to release the numbers live on the air. It's supposed to be next Thursday night, but I just found out I'm going to be in Boston for casting for our new commercial, so I don't know how I'm going to make that work. But those are the kind of challenges I'll try to figure out. So we might move it, might be a different day. Either way, I'll update you. This is Seth Odell. This is Justin. This is Snoo. This is Keyboard, and this is Higher Ed Live. HigherEdLive.com, guys. I'll see you soon.